Before we get into our discussion with our guest, a quick note. The you problem with Dr. P is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute medical or psychological advice and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Hi,
How
how
are
are
you?
you, darling?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So, fill me in. What's going on?
Well, today I just wanted to ask about, I wanted to know how am I supposed to exist and function within relationships after healing too much? After a lifetime of trauma, after being in traumatic relationships, and I mean domestic, family, friends, how do I now be comfortable in relationships?
Okay. Let's back up. You said healing too much. Is there too much
Yes,
healing?
it feels like that. And I make kind of a joke about it. Like, I've healed too much. Now I'll stop somebody mid conversation and back away. I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh,
Whereas I
there's no
wasn't
he
able
there.
to
No,
do
no,
that
no,
before.
no, 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 no. There's no healing too much. That doesn't work that way. What you are is guarded. You're terrified.
Okay.
What are you
Okay.
terrified about? Because if you've healed,
Um,
you should feel like I have this under control, right? No bastard is gonna like squeak in. No one's gonna do this to me again because I know me. I'm solid with me. So I mean, give me an example.
okay. I'll use an example of a friendship.
Okay.
Now it was just platonic. It was a friend. There was a situation where she left groceries in my car. And
Okay.
she accused me of stealing these groceries.
Well,
$13.68 worth of groceries. She accused me of stealing them and saying that I let my kids eat her stuff because my kids run my house. I don't control my children, which could be farthest from the truth.
okay.
Um, and it caused me to end this friendship. I was friends with her for 22 years, and it caused me to end this friendship because I couldn't see myself being friends with someone who would accuse me of stealing groceries.
Well, that's probably wise. I mean, it sounds like a lot of wisdom there. If you leave me your address, I will mail you the 13 bucks. Um, I mean, what's wrong with you ending a relationship with people that are clearly telling you that they're not healthy people to be around? Who are you hanging out with? Where are you finding
But,
your friends?
I'm like you said, very guarded. I've always been very guarded. I've never kept a lot of friends around me because I think I'm highly sensitive to just people's behaviors, what people say, and anybody who thinks down on me or looks down on me. I'm very sensitive to that because that is a direct result of my trauma. Um, So
Okay.
I have when I meet somebody, I hold on to them. So she and I have been friends for a very long time, and that's just how I have my friends.
Okay. What if I told you that you are not too healed, but instead I told you that you're not healed enough?
That's interesting.
It's a different perspective,
I can
right?
believe that. Mhm.
Because here's the thing. When we heal, we clear the deck. It's like a company changing management, right? You sell the company,
Mhm.
people come in, they're going to look at the dynamics, they're going to go what works, doesn't work, and they just clear the deck because they go, this dynamic is not exactly the dynamic that is yielding the desired results, right? So you've healed, quote unquote, right? But you're
Mhm.
still hanging around with people that you had in your life when you were a wreck.
Not anymore. I have no friends. Well, I have only friends I've met in this healing stage. I never consider myself healed. I always say I'll be healing for the rest of my life. But I just make a joke about like maybe I'm doing too much because
Okay. All
the
right.
wounded part of me related to people more. The healing part of me is more isolated.
Well, baby, you no. But here's the thing. Um, when you have trauma, is really I say it's like really going to war, right? You go to war, you get your leg blown off, and you got to learn to walk without that leg. I mean, trauma's trauma.
Mhm.
You're not gonna fully get over that. But you can make a distinction, between that's trauma and this is not trauma. Now, that's a very difficult transition to make because you can operate from a place of fear, right? That everyone that's going to come up to you is going to have some weird intention. And you know what? That's not necessarily bad. We should question the people that come into our lives. And you probably shouldn't tolerate someone calling you a thief, or insulting your children or
Mhm.
insulting your character. I mean, but the one who has to decide where those boundaries are is you. A healed person, a healed enough person, because you've been traumatized, you will never be able to help that you will sniff people up and down, making sure that they're not going to come in and harm you. But, you can sniff them enough and say, well, is this a consistent behavior that they do? Does this violate my boundaries? You have to determine where, up to where you're willing to tolerate this. One thing is letting people close to you to some extent, and then the other thing is letting them jump the fence, invade your house, plant some trees in the backyard, take a shit in your toilet,
Mhm.
whatever it is, but the other thing is saying, okay, you can come up to the porch, and then I'll open the door and you can come up and sit in the living room. And then you can come into my
Mhm.
kitchen and I can serve you a plate of food. And then I'll show you the backyard. We take this in steps. That's how real healing happens. And that's how, I mean, that's how we get to know people in a way that we begin to really discern if they're healthy people or if they're going to be abusive people or if we're going to recreate a dynamic. My, my my healing coach, when I've
Mhm.
been in a narcissistic or abusive relationship in the past, my coach says, when I started having healthy relationships, she suggested that I got a jar of marbles. And she suggested that
Okay.
every time that the person I was with did something that disproved the fact, disproved what I was trying to sniff out, because I was sniffing around going like, I'm going to catch you. You'll see. I will find you have a flaw. It's under that rock. No, it's under that rock. No, it's under that other rock. And I got so tired of flipping rocks. And if you look, you're just going to keep flipping rocks, right? You could do that forever. So she told me, take a marble, and every time that you are disproven, put it in another jar. And every time that you're disproven again, put it in that jar. And as that jar starts to fill up, you begin to see that a person is consistent, reliable, and even though they will make mistakes, that is not the way they operate. Because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody can be hurtful. Everybody can say things at times. Everybody can behave like a dipshit. But what's important is that they are, for the most part, a consistent, reliable, good, non-hurtful human being, right?
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Okay. That makes sense, and it definitely describes how I move when meeting new people and when spending time with people that I'm familiar with. Very, very careful.
Have you ever been on the road and you see a new model of a car or a new color of a car and you go, huh, that's cool. Like I like that color. I've never seen that car before. Huh, what color is that? What's the brand? And all of a sudden you start seeing the car everywhere. Has that ever happened to you?
Mhm. It
Okay.
does.
So that's what happens when you start paying attention to certain behaviors. It's the same shit.
But it's so difficult to get comfortable
Yeah.
because like I've never really kept a lot of people around me, but now I'm just like, am I ever going to date again? I was
Yes.
talking to a guy and he started to overtalk me. And I consider myself to be a person with very good listening skills. He started over talking me and I hung up mid conversation and blocked him. And I'm
Okay.
just like, I have accepted that in the past and I will never do that again.
Okay. Good. Very good. I mean, maybe hanging up in the middle of it is like really fear driven, right? But I mean, it's really good. Yes. No, I will not accept a person talking over me again. That's okay. That's a boundary. I will not accept a person raising their voice again at me. Okay, that's a boundary. I will never accept a person that doesn't equally contribute to this household. Yes, that's a boundary. I will never accept a person that will, disrespect me in front of my children. Yes, that's a boundary. Those are all reasonable boundaries. So, one of the things that you have to be okay with after traumatic relationships is you got to be patient with yourself. You can't get frustrated. You have to be really patient with yourself and going like, for a while here, I'm going to overreact. For a while here, I'm going to be really paranoid. For a while here, and you have to have grace with yourself and say, you know what? And I'm going to give myself the grace that the history that I bring to the table is because of X, Y, and Z reason. And just have grace until you find a person that passes the first test and the second test and the third test, and you go like, all right, now I'm going to be brave. I mean, it's going to take time, but yes, you're going to meet someone else again, I promise you. But you're going to have to be brave, and you're going to have to be patient.
Okay. Like I feel so afraid, and I
I
don't want
know.
to feel afraid.
You don't want to be afraid, and you don't want to be lonely. And you definitely want
Mhm.
another shot at the real stuff, the good stuff. There are good people out there. Sometimes it's just, you see so much bad that you think everybody's bad. That's like going back to the car.
Mhm.
But there are good people out there. When my fiance,
Mhm.
I was out of relationships for a long time, and when my now fiance, after me being in abusive relationships, he approached me.
Mhm.
I was like a hissing snake. I don't know how that man called me back. It was like, hi, and I was like, it was not
Mhm.
pretty. And it was over time and repetition of him being kind, compassionate, understanding what I had been through, and every time he would understand me, I was expecting him not to, but every time he would understand me, I would go like, oh, oh, oh. But it took a lot of courage, and patience
Yeah.
on both parts. So you also want a guy or a friend, or people around your life that understand what you've been through. And that's a very hard thing to understand if you've not been through it. But you can explain it. Part of the
Mhm.
healing is learning to explain that and be transparent about what you've been through without shame. Just don't be
Mhm.
ashamed. I went through a shit show. My entire life I've been in a shit show. Okay, I was a shit show. Now what? And you own it,
No.
you know?
Yeah. I think owning it. That's the part. That's where I struggle.
I
Like
think that
being it, because I'm very open about my story. I'm willing to share my story. I'm a poet and an artist, so I express my healing through my art. But I'm always apprehensive. I think I need to just own it.
you have to own it, babe. We have to own our lives. I mean, for the pretty, the ugly, the wonderful, the shit show. I mean, we just have to own it all, because I wish we could just cut it off and go like, that's another life, another thing, another. We have to. We heal when we string things together. and
Okay.
and you have to be a whole person in order to trust yourself enough to make these discernments of having healthy people around you, and to have courage. So take out that
Mhm.
sewing kit and start like stringing these things along so you can be whole, and then you can start to trust yourself again. Okay,
Okay.
thank you for calling.
Thank
You'll see everything's going to
thank
be
you so
okay.
much.
Okay, bye.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.